So, we're going to talk a little bit about a very, very special TV model series that we still think is incredible, that still deserves a lot of love and a lot of care, and most TV enthusiasts out there would honestly agree, including casual gamers, hardcore gamers. Like, I can already see most of our comments being positive comments, especially that love the brand. So, if you're new to this channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, hit that like button if you enjoyed this content. And then also be sure to leave us a comment down in the comment section down below about the TV series that you pretty much already know from the title of our video and all that. So yeah, just leave us your thoughts down in the comment section down below, and let's get this video started, shall we? So welcome back to the channel. This is Tech and Gaming Reviews. So for those of you that are already members of this YouTube channel, you're probably aware that TVs is one of our things that we love, getting and doing reviews on, of like different types of TVs, whether it be a mid-tier budget range TV or a premium high range TV or whatever the case is, no matter if it's like from TCL, Samsung, Sony, LG, you name it, with all of the brands. But there is a very, very special TV model series that I still think deserves a lot of love and a lot of praises for being just still a very good TV model series. And yes, you are guessing it right now, as you can tell from the title of the video. Yes, it is the Sony X90 series. Now, we have three of Sony's X90 series from the last 3 previous years. We have the X900H from 2020, we have the 2021 X90J, however, and even the recently released 2022 last year model, the X90K. And all 3 of these TVs still look good and still feel really, really premium. Even with us having other TVs that are higher up range, such as the Samsung S95B QD OLED, the Samsung Neo QLED QN90B, also the LG C1 OLED, and even with the TCL QM8 that we're going to be getting in just a little over a week from now, these Sony TVs still feel good, and they still feel premium. Like, yes, they won't have as good of contrast and such compared to all the other ones that we have, but the contrast is still good, and it's barely almost unnoticeable when, if you were to compare, for an example, our Sony X90K that we have directly right here, if you compare that TV with something like the Samsung QN90B, or better yet, even an LG C1 OLED, you're basically not going to be able to tell much of a difference. The only way you would tell the difference is through the colors. When it comes to contrast, yes, you will still see somewhat of a difference between it and an OLED, but when you compare it with a QN90B LCD TV, you're not going to basically tell that much of a difference. But even then, for an OLED, because of how good the contrast is on these TVs, and because they use a VA panel that gives you the best contrast, literally straight head on, yeah, you're not going to tell much of a difference. And even then, I actually seen the reviews for the X90K where some people came from an Sony OLED and an LG OLED and got this TV as their living room TV, with their OLEDs being in their bedrooms and such. And they literally said, man, coming from an OLED, this bad boy still looks good. So the Sony X90 series, especially the X90K, still is fabulous, even from coming from people that came from an OLED and even a higher up LCD TV. So even though these TVs, like we mentioned, are not quite up to par as like an OLED or even a higher up LCD TV like the Samsung QN90B flagship 4K from last year in 2022, or the TCL QM8 that is going to be a freaking monstrous of a TV that we're going to be getting in just a week. Even with comparing all of those TVs, and then another one I forgot to mention is the Hisense U8H. That one is also really incredible. Even comparing it to that, the Sony X90 series is still a really good TV, and it still feels premium, even for the lower price point that it's asking for than compared to its OLEDs and the LG and Samsung OLEDs, and even Samsung's Neo QLEDs that are upper mid ranges. Like the Sony X90 series is still really good, still gets decently bright, maybe not quite as bright as Samsung's Neo QLEDs or even the TCL and the Hisense, but the Sonys still get bright enough to overcome glare, and it's still bright enough that most folks, and even to an extent gamers, would appreciate. Like 500 to 600 nits of peak brightness, that's actually still kind of good in peak brightness, and those are still really good numbers. So even though the Sony X90 series is not all the way up there as the top dog, they still look fabulous, and they still feel really, really premium, just as much as one of the higher up TVs, whether it be an OLED or a Samsung Neo QLED, or even the new badass Samsung, or not Samsung, TCL QM8. Even with those ones, like, the Sonys are still incredible in their own ways. Now, another thing I did get to for mention, for especially you hardcore gamers out there, now, this is something that also does not affect the experience whatsoever. Now, the Sonys definitely do have a higher up, like, input lag, so you're not going to get the exact input latency like you would get on, like, the Samsung TVs and even the LG TVs, where you get around 10 milliseconds at 60 hertz, and then if you wanted to play your PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X at 120, you would basically get 5 milliseconds at 120 hertz. Now, the Sony TVs are somewhere around 14 to upwards 18 milliseconds. Now, that is not a big difference when you compare it to the other ones. Like 7, 8, 6, 5, whatever milliseconds from previous other TVs, you're not going to basically tell a difference from the input lag, no matter what. The only way you will be able to tell a difference if the game, like, has way more latency is, like, the input latency has to be, like, almost triple than that. Like, we're talking about anywhere from 40 milliseconds on up. That is the only way you're going to be able to tell a big difference when you're basically gaming of input latency from whatever. But from 10 milliseconds to somewhere like 17, 18 milliseconds that the Sony TVs kind of do, you're not going to be able to tell a difference, not by a few milliseconds. You have to talk about, like, triple, if not more, in order to see a difference. But, so that leaves us with the point. So, even though they're higher up latency for input lag than all the other brands, their gaming is still really responsive and still is really, really smooth on the Sony TVs. And another thing that Sony does really good on is the upscaling process, which is way better than all the other brands, except for, like, LG and Samsung, the other top brands alongside with them. But even then, Sony has been recommended as being the best brand for basically when it comes to upscaling lower resolution content. And I honestly do have to agree. And then another thing with Sony TVs, I've also heard that they can actually last a bit longer than any other brand out there, including Samsung and LG. So, really, Sony's are really good. And the X90 series of the Sony TV model series is definitely one of the best, if not probably Sony's most popular model TV out there, no matter what. It's either one of Sony's most popular TV models, if not, then the most popular Sony TV model out there. And I do have to admit, they still feel really good. And I forgot to mention the HDR highlights are also incredible. So when you play games in HDR, you are going to get those nice highlights and colors that really pop. Even with the X90J that doesn't consider it a wide color gamut, like the X90K and the X900H. So yeah, the Sony X90 series of televisions is definitely one of the best series of TVs that we have ever bought, that honestly still feels really premium for the price you get, even though they definitely are not quite up there as to some other TVs like the Samsung higher up Neo QLEDs and the OLED series. The Sony X90 series is still a very, very good value and still going to give you really good, clean picture. So if you was on the market for looking for a TV and you were trying to figure out like a TV that you know that you would love, but also save money and not pay like expensive, huge prices, I would honestly say, yeah, definitely look into the Sony X90 series. If you can get the X90K right now, the 65-inch version especially, for $1,200, if it's still available, I would snatch her up. But if you was thinking about the X90L because it's newer and it might be brighter and have better specs, and because the Sony 2023 lineup of TVs do have some gaming performances, then I would also snatch her up. But out of the two, if the X90K is still available for the $200 cheaper that it is compared to the X90L, I would definitely go with the X90K. But for those of you that already have the X90K or the X90J, or even better yet, the awesome popular X900H from 2020, you're still in good hands. You are still in great hands, especially if you are a decent TV watcher or you are a hardcore or casual gamer. You are still in great hands, because the X90 series is one of our favorite TV series out there, and honestly, it definitely deserves a lot of love and care for still feeling so premium and still having awesome picture quality and contrast and brightness and performance and gaming performance in general. So yeah, I definitely do have to say the Sony X90 series of TVs is still one of our favorites TV series out there that we have ever bought. And the X90L, it seems like it's going to be either just on par with the X90K or it's supposed to be better. But from what we've heard that the brightness is supposed to be better and it's got new gaming features and such in it. So from what our understanding, the X90L is going to be better than the X90K. So yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed this video, minus that freaking gnat or whatever that we got freaking flying around. I know that's probably annoying, but, that's just how it is. But I hope you enjoyed the video beside all that. So yeah, the X90 series of Sony TVs are, even though they're not as high premium as some other ones like we mentioned, like OLEDs and the higher up Neo QLEDs, they still feel premium for what they offer. And the gaming performance and just the performance on them and picture quality in general they're still very premium. And we still appreciate what Sony has done with them. So yeah, hope y'all enjoyed that video. If you guys could, smack that like button, subscribe if you are new, and be sure to leave us a comment down in the comment section down below if you are agreeing with this, or if you have one of the three TVs that we own, whether it be the 900H, the X90J, or even the last year X90K, just let us know how your experience with each of those TVs and how your gaming experience, if you're a gamer, how your experience is with them. Is it still good, and do you still appreciate those picture qualities that Sony has offered with those previous X90 series from them? So yeah, just leave us your thoughts down in the comment section down below of just if your TV watch or gaming experience and how it is on each of the three that some of you own. So yeah, this is Tech and Gaming Reviews. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Rate, comment, subscribe, and we will see you on the next one. Peace.